Hello friends, Charlie Cushane here to talk about my 1913 Model T. And if you want to see how I transformed it into a Jack Daniels barrel carrying Model T, watch this video. Here's the Model T as it was delivered from Texas. It wasn't properly tied down in the car carrier. It bounced up, hit the ceiling, and did a lot of damage to the steering wheel, the antique box that was in the back, and I couldn't even drive it for months till I got it all fixed. Let me give you a walk around the Model T. It's very unique. I've done a lot of modifications, of which I'll get into. But it is a totally hand crank 1913 authentic Model T. And on the back is where I did a bulk of the modifications. You see, it's an authentic Jack Daniels barrel. It even has the stamping on the back side with the date code. And it's beautiful in the back with the Jack Daniels branding on it. I did a lot of the modifications to the back here to allow it to be mounted to the back of the Model T, and we'll get into a little bit of those. The story of the transformation of this Model T is very interesting. It started very simply by me going on eBay looking for some parts, and I came across this little model. As you can see, it's a model of a little Model T. It was a bank back in the day. And what's it have on the back? A barrel. Once I saw this, I got the idea to make a Model T with a barrel on the back. However, I knew I had to find a special barrel. And I didn't want to get just any kind of barrel. I wanted to get a unique barrel. So I actually got an authentic Jack Daniels whiskey barrel right from the factory in Lynchburg, Tennessee. And when I got it, it was a mess from the emptying. It was black everywhere. So I did lots of work to get it cleaned up. Everything from taking it to a car wash and pressure washing it and scrubbing it, to finally getting some deck cleaner to clean the barrel, to staining it. And it came out looking like you see here. To carry the barrel, I had to glue up a lot of red oak and then take it over to my brother's house where we cut it on the bandsaw and sanded it all down. The two yokes came out perfect to hold the barrel. After multiple coats of polyurethane, everything got mounted to the back of the Model T, including a couple of doors that give access to the batteries that were mounted under the barrel and gave easy access to it. Before cleaning and staining the barrel, I decided to rotate the end panel of the barrel. And this required me to loosen the top two bands and then stick with double back tape pieces of wood to the end part and then rotate it slowly until it was nice and square. Here I am at the car wash trying to scrub the barrel clean, but it was having no luck. That barrel was really black and I couldn't get it clean no matter how hard I rubbed. I was finally able to get the barrel clean using deck wash, and then I put some good oil-based stain on it. Even though the barrel is empty, it's very heavy. And here I am with my good friend Art, using a chain across each end in a 2x4. And we're going to lift it and put it up on the back of the car as gingerly as possible, trying not to scratch anything.
What we want to do is I'm going to get on the other side. Yep. You want it straight up. You ready? I'll slide. Good. Good. Higher on your side.
I'm trying.
Okay.
Hold on. Head.
Okay. Down. That's
It's
close.
not quite.
Okay. We'll go back a little bit more.
Okay, a little more back. There. Okay.
Well,
Where? So rotate that wheel a little bit.
One little,
This way?
like a skosh to the left. That, maybe too much. Like that. Another one.
Perfect.
The straps look good.
That should stretch out there. Would you do this or?
Wait, hold on a second. You gotta turn this. There you go. Yeah, that's it. This side.
There we go. That's one.
Good job. Nice. Beautiful.
To hold the barrel down to these yokes, I needed a way to hold it down so it wouldn't bounce off. And I didn't want to bolt it down. So I actually found a gentleman who was making these Jack Daniels belts. And I ordered the longest belt I could with no holes in it. Of course, he didn't understand why I wanted a belt with no holes, but when I got it back, those became my straps. And these straps actually go through an eye hook and down, and there's a spring right here. And that spring keeps a constant tension on this, so that as the barrel shrinks and expands and we bounce, it's not totally rigidly mounted down, but the straps keep a constant tension down. And that has worked fantastic. When I bought the car, the floorboards were completely falling apart, and that's because you take them off quite often to adjust the bands in the transmission. So I decided to rebuild them all using some nice solid oak and some brass inserts so you could screw the floorboards down and take them off really easy. And I ended up sanding all the floor and building all new parts, but when I was all done, it came out beautiful. Here's the customized mechanism I built using a nylon tube and a pull chain that activates the exhaust whistle, which sounds like a train. And I use this all the time in parades and driving around, and people love it. Some of the modifications I made to the front are pretty unique as well. As you can see, the standard gas-powered headlights were taken out for some modern halogens, of which I put a reflector in there with a 6-volt halogen bulb. And then on the front, I put a Macbeth, they called it. This is an authentic Macbeth old lens cover, with the idea, they sold it saying that this lens blocks any stray light from going into the driver's eyes, and it was a gentleman's lens cover. If you had this, it made mean you were a gentleman. As you can see, those both work. I installed a halogen headlight in a reflector inside, but you could see it and it was really obvious. I didn't like the flat glass lens cover. So I found some Macbeth lenses, which are very unique. And they add a nice touch to the car and actually help aim the light and prevent it from going into oncoming driver's eyes. It looks beautiful, and the green matches my green New Hampshire license plate. In addition, I took the gas out of these lights and put in a flicker candle. You can see flickering, and that works fantastic at night. The flicker candles look great during the day, but they look even better at night when it's dark and they are flickering, and it gives great appearance to the car. There's a little button cell battery inside the oil compartment and a switch to turn them on and off. On the sides, because there was no side markers, I put these cat's eye lights. Those look beautiful at night. I put some gas, water, and oil cans on the side. Those were authentic for back in the day. And in the back, you have the 3-colored tail light. Blue on this side, red on the back, and white over here. Sort of like an old train lantern. Then I added a 1930s school bus stoplight. Now I'll demonstrate that actual 1930s stoplight that I got from a school bus. You can see, it makes it very obvious when you're braking because it says stop. And I wired it to the brake pedal so that it comes on when they step on the brake. And keep coming around, there's the other cat's eye light. And I added a old antique suitcase on the running board, which was a typical thing back in the day. Here's the other flicker candle. Another item you may have noticed is this is a 2.5 gallon gas can. It's a stainless steel jerry can, 2.5 gallons, all stainless, and it's there because to keep me out of trouble. We took a drive, my wife and I, one day in our hometown, and we ran out of gas. And my wife said, that'll never happen again. You gotta have spare gas. So that's my 2.5 gallons of spare gas that I have. Also in this picture you can see an authentic Jack Daniel's sign and a bunch of flasks I put on here to decorate the car. Same with down here. There's a couple of more flasks and signs. Another unique modification I did on the front and rear are turn signals. This had never had turn signals. And what we found out was kids nowadays don't know when you're putting your hand out what that means. As you can see, I have the blinker on. These are antique turn signal lights mounted to the bar that holds the front fender. If you go around back, and what's unique about the back blinkers is not only do they face backwards, so you can see, but they also face frontwards. So you can actually see these from two directions. And they have a really nice shade over them, as you can see. See this shade? So that keeps it nice so you can keep it's visible in all lighting conditions. Something else that's pretty unique to this car is the hood ornaments and support I made. As you can see, this is the winged goddess of speed that you see there, and it's mounted to the motometer with a brass piece right here that I had cast in brass and then painted it with a flag, and it came out fantastic. It also has holes in the back to hold the flag. right there. Now, what adds to its uniqueness is that Winged Goddess of Speed bronze hood ornament is vintage, a 1920s vintage, and it's bolted on, as you see from underneath, with a nut. And you take the nut off, this comes off, and then you could put one of my others from my collection, as you see here. So these are all a collection I have, mounted to a board that I usually put on my seat and display when I go to a show. So those are always a big hit for people to see. One last thing I made for when I go to shows is a display case in the back that actually has two badges from the River Rouge plant where the cars were made back in the day. They are great to have in the case. Okay, now it's time to start this up and take it for a ride. First thing you have to do, retard the spark, set the throttle. Then what I do before I start it sparking is I give it 2 cranks to prime it. Okay, now I'll set the spark on.